Hey everybody, and welcome to Marina's Movie Club. It's a show where we talk about all of our favorite movies. My name's Ethan, I am your producer and co-host, and with me, as always, is the namesake of this show, my film school sweetheart, Marina.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, it's good to see you.
You too.
Thanks. I don't know, it's just good to see you.
I don't know, I saw you all day.
Because I love you.
Oh,
it's always good to see
too.
you. What are we talking about today?
Alien.
My favorite movie about saving a cat.
Classic.
I wish that was the whole plot. I think we needed more cat.
There wasn't enough cat.
There was not enough cat.
Yeah.
Well, today we are doing a bit of a kind of a rewatch episode. Mm-hmm. We watched Alien just so you don't have to go watch the whole franchise on your own just to catch up and see the new Alien Romulus that's coming out.
Right.
Yeah. So this will contain tons and tons of spoilers, but that's kind of the point because we're going to do a little bit of a synopsis, explain the franchise, where the new movie is coming out into the storyline, and then you can go watch it with your friends and be all caught up to speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully I was going to say, hopefully it's not one of those things where you have to watch all of the episodes, or I guess the movies, in order to understand the newest one that's coming out.
No, it's not.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it would really be something that's like that.
We'll get into that more.
Yeah. Well, anyways, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good. How's your, I guess it's Friday now, so how's the beginning to your weekend?
It's been good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just got back from the other side of the world.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
I say Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah.
But I think if you wanted to say it in
Kyrgyzstan.
Kyrgyzstan. I don't know. Someone could correct me.
Yeah. Someone from Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, so 15-hour flight. No, 14-hour flight.
It was
I don't know.
too
a long flight.
However long it was.
But lots of movies were watched.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, on both, there and back.
There was we traveled for like a total of 24 hours to get there. And
then we had to get back.
And then we had to get back for another 24 hours. But on the way back, we were traveling against the time zones. So I think it only took like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Because we were time travelers.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
We were so fast.
The other thing, real quick, before we get into the movies that we watched on the plane, I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So we went from Seattle, where we live, to Dubai for a layover. To get there, we went over the North Pole. The coolest thing ever. You look out the window, just ice caps forever. It was so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like everyone, when I tell them that we went, or when I told them we were going, they're like, oh, are you going east or west? And then our answer is just, no, we go up. Yeah.
Just always forget that that's an option.
I know. Everyone's always so shocked.
That's awesome. So what did you watch on the plane?
Okay. So I know that there's two that I can't remember because I think I fell asleep.
Nice. Did it just autoplay whatever was next and you said,
no,
okay, I'm here for it?
I chose it.
You chose it and forgot it?
I forgot it. There's one on the way there and one on the way back. I know I watched 3 on each plane ride, but I can only remember 4.
Okay, well, what are the 4 that you
6.
remember?
Okay. I watched North by Northwest, classic Hitchcock.
Oh, right.
Yeah. First of all, though, just the movie options on the plane were insane.
Oh, there was a lot of them on Emirates.
Yeah.
So many.
They had like a whole classic section.
Yeah.
Whole like award winners
It was
section.
cool.
It was crazy.
Lots to choose from.
Yeah. And then I watched Lisa Frankenstein, which came out earlier this year.
How was
I really
that?
liked it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I want to rewatch it because it was weird to watch on a plane. It's like a campy slasher kind of
Did you
movie.
feel like Lisa was right behind you?
No.
Getting ready to cut your head off?
No, I feel like I couldn't get into it enough.
Oh,
it wasn't
interesting.
scary enough because I was like
got
on
it.
a plane.
Yeah.
And then I watched Notting Hill, which I had never seen before.
What even is that one?
It's like a classic rom-com that I feel like everyone
except me knows about?
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool.
It's the one that's like, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her.
Yeah.
That's what that's from.
Oh,
yeah.
That's fun.
And then what else did I watch? Dang it, I watched one other thing. I don't remember. You go and maybe I'll think of it.
Okay. Well, the first movie I watched was The Boys in the Boat, which was fine. It's good. I think I liked it more than I disliked it, but I didn't really have strong dislikes about it. It just it was fine. Also, I heard from a friend of ours that the visual effects were apparently really bad because the boats were all CGI'd, but I didn't know that until afterwards. And on the plane, I couldn't tell because it was like a little 4-inch monitor on the seat back in front of me.
Yeah.
So ended up looking fine to me. But Boys in the Boat was fun. Got to see Hitler and, you know.
Always nice to catch up.
What? It was just nice to have a cool antagonist of Hitler. And then we won. It was cool.
Nice.
Okay. So there's that
But he
one.
didn't die.
No, he didn't die, which is upsetting.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different movie. This is a very small vignette of one part of Hitler's life.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with Hitler, really. He was just there.
He just happened to be in charge at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
The other one that I really enjoyed was The Social Network.
Oh, yeah.
Hadn't seen it before. Loved it. It was fantastic. And I watched both of those on the way there to our destination. On the way back, I didn't watch any movies until the end of the flight, where I tried to watch Dune, but I was so tired that I think I only caught 5-minute chunks at a time before falling asleep again and then rewinding. So I saw the first 5 minutes probably like 5 times.
Nice.
So I can't really say I watched it.
How
just
was it? That part?
Visually pretty, I guess. I don't know. Their spaceships look cool.
Nice.
So yeah. I guess that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I remembered I watched Argyle.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that Taylor Swift wrote, but then she didn't write.
I was so excited about it because I thought she wrote it, and then I found out she didn't, so then I never saw it. But I felt like I needed to see it just to experience it.
Right.
I don't know. It was okay. It was like good and fun, but like the ending, there was just so much going on.
It's a spy movie, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I won't spoil it in case anyone wants to watch it, but I liked it until the end.
Yeah.
Kind of. So
overall, if you had to choose a airline simply based off of their movie selection,
the entertainment options
on Emirates, great.
So good.
Yeah, it was really good.
What's your favorite movie out of the 3 that you watched?
Oh, definitely The Social Network.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was really, 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 really good.
Nice.
Yeah. I think it won some awards.
Yeah.
So, rightly so.
Yeah.
I agree with the awards that it was given.
Yeah.
Whatever they were. It was great. Should we get into The Predator? Or sorry, not The Predator.
Not The Predator.
We're
other actually specifically not talking about The Predator.
Alien.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should we get into everything that you should know before watching Alien Romulus?
I think so.
Yeah? Now's the time? Okay.
Sounds good.
Great. Here we go.
That's what we're here for.
Okay, so where is the new movie coming out in the timeline of all of the other like 20,000 Alien movies that have come out?
Okay, so we start with Alien vs. Predator.
Okay.
And then Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
So 2 collab movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're ignoring.
Oh, those aren't canon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for the most part, generally accepted as not great movies.
Okay.
That we should ignore.
Yeah, so stupid.
And so then we have Prometheus, which I believe takes place about 30 years before Alien, the original.
Yeah.
And then we have Alien Covenant, which happens 18 years before Alien.
Okay.
And then Alien, the original movie.
Yep.
And then Aliens.
Which is the sequel to Alien.
Right.
Just plural aliens.
Aliens, yeah.
So otherwise known as Alien 2.
Alien 2.
Okay.
And then Alien 3, and then Alien Resurrection. And so Alien Romulus, this new one, is going to take place between the 2 originals, Alien and Aliens.
Got it. So it's like a Alien 1.5.
Right.
Do you know what the word Romulus really means?
No, it, I guess, is a reference to, I don't know if it's actually historically accurate or if this is like a myth kind of thing.
Okay.
But it's a reference to the person who like founded Rome, the king who founded Rome.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's probably the name of the ship.
Oh, I see.
Because in Covenant and Prometheus, both of those are the names of the ships.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no reference to it. I didn't notice it when we were watching Alien today. The name Romulus. It's not like the name of an alien or something like that. Got it. Okay. Well, very interesting. Okay. So if you're going to go see this, put your headspace right after the original Alien. And if you haven't seen that, we can recap it in just a little bit.
We're going to start with some alien biology.
Okay, great.
So ready for your little science lesson?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. Xenomorph biology. Should I call them aliens? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So the life cycle of a xenomorph. It starts off as an egg.
Don't we all?
Yeah. An egg-like creature,
sure.
I guess.
Okay.
Almost like a flower. I don't know. It's like,
beautiful.
Kind of opens up a little bit. So the official name is an ovomorph, but
cute.
They just call them eggs.
Wow.
So I don't think you need to know that word.
Keep that as a back pocket option for our next pet name.
Ew. And then they kind of just hibernate almost in their like egg form.
Okay.
Until they detect the presence of a potential host.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will open up and release what is the second stage in their life cycle, the face hugger.
Okay.
Which is
nice.
Described as a arachnid-like life form.
But it hugs your face.
Yeah, and it's cute.
Warm and adorable.
Yeah, so it's adorable and it launches itself onto the host's face and then impregnates it with parasitic larva. And then this parasite consumes parts of the host from within and violently emerges from the host's chest cavity as a worm-like creature, also known as a chest burster.
Oh, great. Very creative name.
Which will then quickly scurry away to find a safe place where it can molt and complete its metamorphosis into an adult xenomorph, which happens in a few hours. So it goes from literally like 1 foot tall to like this 8 foot tall creature.
Which I feel like is a plot hole that is not addressed. Where did it get all of the mass?
Yeah.
It didn't eat enough things.
Eat anything.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe it just consumes the space carbon dioxide around it. Something like that.
Just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So the face hugger, it supplies oxygen to the host to keep it alive, which was addressed in Alien. I thought it was kind of funny because so they see the tube going down Kane's face or throat. And they're like, oh, it must be supplying oxygen to him. And I was like, how do you know that?
I know that. I felt like that was just a very assumptive leap.
I know.
Yeah.
So it's doing that to like keep you alive, but it's also putting you into a coma while it puts embryos into you.
Mm-hmm. Yummy.
Yeah. And then once the embryos have been implanted, the face hugger will fall off, curl up, and die. Cute. And then the host is in a short coma and then will typically wake up very hungry, which is seen in Alien because it's trying to
gain all of the potential mass.
The parasite is taking all the, and then it emerges from the body in whatever gory way it wants to. And then adult xenomorphs are typically have invertebrate-like bodies, dark exoskeletons, a long flexible scale with like a little, like a stinger thing or like barb on the end. And then an elongated domed head and a toothed mouth hiding a secondary extendable mouth. We'll get into this a little bit more in Alien Covenant, but they're basically created to be the perfect killing machine and are not really killed by anything. Mm-hmm. And also, xenomorph bodies, like their end result, I guess, of their bodies kind of depend on the hosts that they grow inside of. So there are within the Alien universe different versions of what they look like.
I see.
And also their blood is acid. So they're also hard to kill because of that. last thing that may be important is that the xenomorphs, like nests, or I don't know, kind of like their little groups, operate under a hive mind or a collective consciousness, which is directed by the queen xenomorph, who can talk to them either telepathically or vocally with shrieks. And it's also, they also potentially share like a collective memory, which also ties into Stranger Things. If we want to talk about like,
interesting.
Yeah, Stranger Things is very much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It is like a direct reference to this movie and franchise.
Yeah. And I think you see more of like the hive mind and stuff in Aliens, which we won't talk about a ton today.
But it is talked about in Stranger Things as well.
Oh, yeah. I was just saying more so than an Alien.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Got it. Cool. Well, how about you set the stage here for us in terms of where we are in the timeline of what's happening in the Alien universe with Alien Covenant?
Okay, so Covenant takes place between Prometheus and the original Alien. So it was kind of created to make, like, to bridge together those two movies, because Prometheus is very, like, origin story-ish, and then doesn't very clearly tie into the Alien movies.
Sure.
So this was meant to sort of connect them more.
Got it.
So it takes place 10 years after Prometheus, and we are on the ship Covenant, called Covenant, and it's a colony ship. So it's a bunch of couples essentially going to colonize this like new planet that is similar to Earth.
Interesting. So they're just going to have tons of babies.
Yeah, there are. So the crew is all couples, and then there's also like more couples that are in hypersleep the whole time and are never awake during the movie. And then they also bring like all these embryos in this like freezer thing.
Cool.
Yeah. So I don't fully understand the reproduction plans, but I guess they're just bringing enough people and they're hoping it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. The crew on the ship is woken up kind of similar to Alien. They're woken up by the ship because there's something going wrong with the ship. And it's not fully clear like what's happening. There's just a bunch of stuff malfunctioning. And then James Franco plays the captain for like 1 second before he dies by just bursting into flames. So that's a nice little like...
Day rate was probably too expensive.
I know. Why even have him? I didn't even know it was Dave Franco until... Wait, Dave Franco? Is that his name?
You said James first.
James Franco. I said Dave on accident the second time.
I was like,
then I was like, that's not right. James Franco. Yeah, I
Doesn't
didn't
he have a brother?
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Okay. So then now we have the second in command, who is now captain. His name is Oram, and he is just a very bad captain. So, the other important character is David, or sorry, not David, Walter.
Well, speaking of David, that is James Franco's brother's name.
That's so funny.
It's Dave. So you were right.
I said Dave.
Yeah, you said Dave.
Okay, so it's a real person.
He's a real guy.
Okay.
He's not a myth.
Okay.
But he's not.
But he's not in the movie. James is in the movie.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so Walter plays the what's called a synthetic, which is an AI android person, robot, who's played by the same person who played David in Prometheus. So it's like the newer version of David from Prometheus. And both of these androids are older versions of Ash in Alien. David is the first android ever made, I believe. And he was created very, like, too human. So he has like the ability to love, and I mean, without anthropomorphizing a robot, but essentially has the ability to love and has the ability to like create, and just like kind of freaked people out because he was too real. And so this new version, Walter, is the next generation of these robots and has less ability for emotion. And he also cannot create, which is super interesting. So there's like this one scene where David and Walter are together, and David's teaching him how to play like the flute, but he's like, I can't do it because I can't like create anything. So he like can't like play music, which is so interesting. The ship is like blowing up. They receive a human distress signal from a nearby planet, and then they decide to land there because it seems like a good enough place to start their colony, and there's already humans there maybe. So they land there, but of course there are aliens. So they get infected with the aliens. They have to kill a bunch of aliens. And then David, the android guy, is there living on this planet because he's the only survivor from the Prometheus 10 years earlier. And so they like connect with him, and he explains to them how aliens work. And then we find out that he's the one who's been creating the aliens. So he is essentially like, a lot of Prometheus has themes of Frankenstein. And then we see that move into Covenant also. So he's he's described as like Frankenstein's monster, who then becomes a version of Dr. Frankenstein, because now he's like trying to create this perfect life form through these aliens. And then, so there's this really weird scene where he brings the captain from Covenant to like see the eggs. And then he's like, oh yeah, like look inside of it. And then right when he looks inside of it, a face hugger jumps out. And then like he gets the embryo in him. And then he just kind of waits for it to hatch out of the captain. And then he's just like watching it. And there's this like really pretty music in the background. And David's like about to cry because he's like so excited that this thing is
so weird,
like coming out. Yeah. But he just looks like such a proud father. And it's just like, so, I don't know. It's so funny and weird. So, okay. I think we can talk about this before we get into Alien.
Okay.
But this is the first movie in the franchise other than Alien to be very obviously related or like talking about the aliens as kind of this like sexual kind of weird thing, or like have like sexual undertones to the movie, which I thought was just like very weird.
It also makes sense with the purpose of the humans going to the new planet, of them repopulating it.
Yeah.
That the whole thing kind of has like a population undertone.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I never thought about that. So most of Covenant is about the idea of being violated and then giving like birth unnaturally to something that will kill you.
Gross.
I know. And so I have this quote from Dan O'Bannon, who is the writer. He said, "I'm not going to go after the woman in the audience. I'm going to attack the men. I'm going to put in every image I can think of to make men in the audience cross their legs." And so he wanted to just like really make men uncomfortable. And I think it's, extra obvious in Covenant, because also David is because he's like created, well, he's a robot, so he can't like reproduce on his own, but he has like the ability to understand that he wants to reproduce in a way. So then he tries to like be the father of these alien things and like create them. But then also he's using humans to like implant embryos.
Yeah.
And then give birth through humans. Which is just so weird.
It's so nasty.
And he also at 2 points, he like forcefully kisses Walter, the other android. And it's so weird. And then he like forcefully kisses the main character, whose name I literally forgot, but whatever. But whatever the girl's name is. And it's just like it's so weird because I'm like, you're a robot. I don't understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I understand why they made newer versions of the android.
Right.
Yeah. And then the movie ends with David kills Walter, but then pretends to be Walter.
Yes.
And gets back on the ship. And then everyone goes into hypersleep. And then right as they're going into hypersleep, they realize that it's not actually Walter, it's David. And then David had brought 2 embryos of the alien with him onto the ship. So I don't know exactly how those embryos relate to Alien, because it's like different planets and stuff.
Right.
But
and
somehow
it also takes place later to a group of people that are unaware of the aliens.
Yeah.
So I think the undertone, though, is that the aliens are like parasites trying to do anything with all purposes to like reproduce and find hosts. And so that's kind of, if I feel like it's just alien history.
Yeah.
So that you understand like what these aliens are before you get into the pilot franchise film Alien, which is the original.
And I think Alien Covenant was like criticized a lot for being too, like kind of too heady and like philosophical, and also trying to be too much of like a scary movie at the same time.
Right.
And not really like choosing a side. And I think I kind of get that. I think it's still a pretty good movie, but there is a lot of like, I don't know if we needed Prometheus and Covenant.
I get that.
Because it's kind of like, it feels like there's just too much lore going on.
Too much movie, like riding off the success of Alien, trying to create a big thing about it.
I just think like, I'm okay not knowing where the aliens come from.
Yeah.
I'm okay just being like, okay, yeah, there's aliens out there.
Right.
But it feels like the more that they try to like answer the question of where the aliens came from, the more questions I then have about like,
because it's not a succinct enough origin.
Yeah. And then there's like things that it just keeps going back. Like, it's like, well, then who created this? And then who created this, you know?
Yeah.
So there's just like, there always has to be someone creating something.
Right, right.
And it's just very confusing.
Yeah.
So I don't think we needed it, but in case you wanted to know where the aliens come from, now we know.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the recap of the original Alien movie, let's take a quick break and then we will get into a synopsis so that you're all ready to watch the new movie coming out soon.
Hey, it's Marina. Don't you hate ads? Wish you could go back to listening to our podcast? For only $3 a month, you can subscribe to our Patreon. One of our favorite perks, no ads. Get straight to the content. What other things are on our Patreon, Ethan?
So glad you asked. One of them is Director's Cuts, where we release extended episodes with more tangents and dad jokes. Bonus episodes on the weeks where we don't post to our main channel. Real Talks, which are episodes where we go out to see a movie and record the podcast on site at the theater. You could also get inside scoops on upcoming things that are on the podcast. Recently, we posted a director's cut from our conversations in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and we also did a Real Talk about a movie that came out 100 years ago. We saw it on the original 35 millimeter that it was printed to, and there was a live organist doing the score.
Subscribing to our Patreon is a great way to support our podcast, so thanks for going to check it out.
Now, back to the show. Alien was directed by Ridley Scott, written by Dan O'Bannon, starring Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, and John Hurt. So back when Alien came out, where we are in the story now is a new set of people on a new ship going to, they're like in hyperspace. They are in the year 2122. So the ship that they're on is called Nostromo, and it's a deep space commercial mining ship. So they're sent from Earth, I believe, to get a bunch of minerals from a far off planet, and then they are in hypersleep going back to Earth. So that's where the movie opens. And on its way back, it's carrying a load of extraterrestrial ore, and it's awoken the crew from hypersleep by the ship's computer, which is named Mother. So
never a good sign when something's named Mother.
No. Oh my gosh. It's a really good, what's that movie called?
Psycho.
Yeah. Good Psycho reference.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So the ship had intercepted what appeared to be a distress signal from some uncharted planet, and the crew was obligated to respond to it. So the crew lands on the planet, and several of its members explore the surface, but they find a spacecraft with a dead pilot and then a cargo of alien eggs. So one of the crew members, his name is Kane, he inspects the egg that opened, and like Marina had mentioned, what eggs do, it attacked his face with a face-hugging creature. It just like penetrated the helmet, hugged his face, and then it inserts part of his body down into the throat and clings fiercely to the head. So they bring him back to the ship, and against the orders of Lieutenant Ellen Ripley, who kind of becomes the main character at this point, the other crew members violate all the quarantine rules by bringing Kane back on board. They find that the creature, whose blood is corrosive acid, like it drips through several layers of the spaceship, that because of that, they can't really remove it from Kane's body without also killing Kane at the same time. So it eventually, just like the life stage of the embryo does, it falls off of Kane and it dies on its own. So they think like, oh, problem solved. It was just a weird thing, but now Kane's fine, because Kane wakes up and then he's seemingly recovered, and they're having a meal together right before they re-enter hypersleep to just go back to Earth. So they're thinking like, oh, I'm good. We're all going to hang out with a cat. It's going to be great. Okay. But then when they continue the meal, Kane starts like violently rolling around, and they're holding him down, trying to figure out what's happening. And the alien, just like one of the most famous scenes in cinema, just like bursts open from the chest of Kane, and then it runs away, and all of the crew is just like shocked. They're like, what? I don't know how to respond. So they realize that the creature was a parasite, and it uses human bodies to incubate its young. So for the rest of the film, the crew members are desperately like trying to kill the alien, and it's quickly growing into a bigger and bigger alien. And then when they fail to kill it, they are just moving into escape mode. So they're trying to run away as fast as possible. But probably like one of the biggest plot twists that I did not see coming at all was this like second antagonist kind of subtly rising up, who was Ash, who you mentioned was kind of like, we're learning at this point in the movie, is a more sophisticated android.
Yeah.
Who I thought was like a human the whole time.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the reason they figure it out is because Ash is trying to kill Lieutenant Ripley, because Lieutenant Ripley is kind of fighting her, Ash's commands too often, but they're kind of equal rank, so they have this big power dynamic. And anyways, Ash is trying to kill Lieutenant Ripley, but Parker bursts in and he helps defend her, but ends up decapitating Ash. And it reveals that he was a android the whole time, and he was made by the commercial mining company that put the ship together. And his whole purpose was to get an alien, to get it like transported back to Earth to possibly be used as like a military weapon, because it's just like the perfect killing machine. So all it's doing is it's saying like, must get alien, but in a much more human voice.
Yeah.
And the probably the most existential part of the film, Lieutenant Ripley is typing into the mother computer, asking it questions, and it's like, what's the protocol for this thing? And the computer responds that the crew is expendable, and at all costs bring the alien back to Earth.
Yeah.
So that was why Lieutenant Ripley was getting murdered by Ash, was just because the crew is expendable, get the alien back. Really interesting. So as they continue to fight off the real antagonist of the film, which is the alien itself, one by one, the alien keeps picking off the crew members until Ripley is the only one remaining to fight the xenomorph. So she ends up making a solo effort to escape, which seemed to succeed in the beginning. After she rigs the mothership to self-destruct, she makes it into an escape pod, but doesn't realize that the alien was also there with her. I don't know how the alien got there.
I don't know. It doesn't really explain
it. Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Because there's like these huge doors that go.
Yeah.
So it's very obvious.
So it had to have like been in there before she got in
or
there.
Or like crawled through a vent or something.
Yeah.
But I don't. Anyways,
okay,
that issue aside, I don't know how the alien was there, but it was there.
Yeah.
Great little second twist in the film. Like, oh my gosh, there's the alien. And then she gets in the escape pod, realizes that the alien is there, and then she has this epic battle with the alien while she's singing a song about like my
her lucky star.
Lucky star. That's what it was. Yeah. That was funny. And then, anyways, Ripley ends up winning the battle, kicks the alien out into space, and then burns it with the thrusters of her spaceship, leaving Ripley and the cat.
Yeah, Jones.
Safe to go home to Earth on their own, the last remaining survivors of the Nostromo ship. So there's your recap of kind of the most important parts of the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
If you're a really big fan of sci-fi horror movies, there's a lot more Alien to go around. But I feel like those two are the most important ones to set you up for what is really Alien 1.5.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, Romulus is a standalone movie. So you don't need to know. There's nothing like super imperative that you know before you see it. But
almost it's positive that there will be a crew of people on a spaceship.
Yes.
And then, oh my gosh, there's aliens. And then there will be lots of gore.
Yes.
About all of the ways that the alien parasites just exit humans.
Yeah.
And then somebody will get out of there.
One person.
I'm sure somebody will.
Yeah. Yeah. The alien movies definitely have a template.
Yeah, there's a formula there. But why make the other ones if there is nothing? You know what I'm really curious about is the Alien movie really, okay, so two main things are really strong female character who doesn't usually exist in like other movies in this point in time in history. Like 70s isn't like super big female leads.
Yeah.
So the fact that that was a thing, really interesting. Would love to explore that more in other films. It did seem like Dan O'Bannon had kind of touched on that in the previous films a little bit. But the thing that I found the most interesting was this company that they were sent by, the mining company from Earth, seemed so wicked.
Yeah.
And I would love to know like their backstory or see like a court case between Sigourney Weaver's character and that company.
Yeah.
Or then you're not getting into sci-fi horror, really. But it's just like, how could you send out a crew with a android like ship person kind of just there to make sure that the undertone of the real mission was actually accomplished, which is to bring an alien home for war.
Yeah.
Like that in its own right is like, that seems like actually the most interesting part of the film. And that twist, I was like, what? And then it just kind of was like, okay, now more guts and alien and
I know there's supposed to be 3 prequel movies. So we have Prometheus and we have Covenant, and there's supposed to be one more that will eventually be made.
Oh,
and some people think it might be about that.
Really?
Which I think
that would be so good.
Yeah. There was also speculation that in between Alien and Aliens, we'd get a movie on Earth, but now we're getting Romulus, which is not on Earth.
Oh, okay.
But I think you could still do another one that's on Earth. So I think it's not out of the cards for the future.
Cool.
Yeah.
Interesting to know.
I know.
I do have a couple fun facts about the Alien movie.
Love it.
Mainly because I hadn't watched it up until today before we recorded. So as one of the more famous, influential films, I had just wanted to see, like, I figured there was like some documentary and capturing a lot of fun things that happened behind the scenes. And there was a bunch of them.
Nice.
But a couple that I picked out that were the most fun were, one thing was Ridley Scott, who directed the film, actually shot most of the film as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know exactly what the relationship between the cinematographer and DP and him were.
Yeah.
But it was quoted that like most of the film was shot on Ridley's shoulders, which I think takes me back to film school, and you could like direct and shoot at the same time. And then it's like less communication that needs to be done.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's like part of his filming style.
Yeah.
And he obviously did it way better than I did. But I just remember getting into the like sophomore level classes where you weren't doing everything by yourself.
Yeah.
And then how kind of disjointed the process was of communicating between director and like so many other roles when you were doing it for the first time.
Yeah.
Anyways, I keep bringing up film school because it's like my one claim to fame to
for this podcast.
It's just like, it's the only the only like professional experience that I have.
Yeah.
But it was not really professional. All that said is that it was interesting to have a director shoot it. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, I would love to hear what the cinematographer thinks of that and like how much of that is true.
Oh, yeah.
Because that totally seems like something that could become just like
like an inflated
about the
lore,
movie,
like,
you know? Yeah. And it's like, but actually the cinematographer did it. And then Ridley Scott's just like, no, yeah, I did it. It was all me. So I like half believe it.
Yeah. I feel like the quote that I saw was something like 80% of the film was shot by Ridley. And I could see it realistically being less than that. And then it was just been like, it was something like 80% of the movie. And then it was quoted like an actual statistic.
Well, and I think when a director does anything that is not typically in his like job description,
right?
I said his, but you know, her too. But I'm talking about specifically Ridley Scott in this situation. I think whenever they do something outside of the ordinary, people freak out about it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, it was shot by him, but really like he could have shot like 2 scenes.
Right.
And I think people would have been very impressed.
Yeah. Or I often see the fun fact of like, did you know that every character has their own in-depth backstory that isn't mentioned in the film, but it's just used for the actor and the director? Yeah. It's like, I think that's like kind of common writing practice.
Right. Like you should be doing that if you're a good actor or director.
Yeah. It's just, but my favorite part about that is how often in shows like about bad actors, they're like, oh, well, I just give my character a backstory.
Yeah.
And
I know. That's so true.
They really like bread. It's just like something super random.
But then they get like way too into that one thing.
Yeah. And they're like, why are you eating so much bread on set? And they're like, it's because my character used to work at a bakery. Okay. So the other fun fact is, you know, that scene where the alien pops out of Kane's chest?
Yeah.
Practical.
Yeah. I saw that.
100% practical. The way they filmed it was they cut a hole out of the table that he was laying on. Oh. And then he popped his head out. So his head was real because he was like actually making these reactions. Yeah. And then they got a torso dummy to be on the table. Whoa. And they left out the details of what was going to happen in that scene to the actors. Yeah. So that when it happened, they didn't realize like how gory and crazy it was going to be and how much blood was going to like splatter up onto their faces. So when it happened, they were really shocked. And then so that was the reaction shot that Ridley Scott was really hoping to get. So there you go.
When I read that it was practical, I just assumed it was like something attached to his chest and then something popped out. I didn't realize that it was a full dummy. Yeah. I also read though that with the practical effect, I thought someone was at our door, but I think it's the cats eating. Whatever.
Someone was at the door.
Oh, okay. I'm going to ignore it. I also read, though, that with it being a practical effect, they were going to do one shot, but they ended up having to do, or one take. They ended up having to do 2 takes because the first time the practical effect didn't work and it just like kind of half exploded, but then they used it in the end, like in the movie, so that the struggle was just like longer. And that's like the first little burst of blood that you see that comes out.
Interesting.
And it doesn't splatter. It just kind of like wets his shirt. Yeah. And then a little while later,
then the whole thing explodes
comes
open.
Out. Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
I didn't notice that. And I didn't think it was weird, or I thought it was just like, oh my gosh, he's like bleeding so much. And then I knew what was going to happen just because it's such an iconic scene. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't think anything of it.
Yeah. I only noticed it because I had read that before and it said like, yeah, you can notice the failed take in the final version. And I was like, oh, I have to watch for it.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. One more thing that Ridley Scott left out the cast in terms of details on was that he really wanted the ship to feel claustrophobic. Oh. So in order to give that impression to the cast, he had the walls of the ship moved in slightly every single day that they were shooting without telling anybody. So he just talked to the art director. Yeah. He was like, can you just like push it just a little more?
Oh my gosh.
And the production designer just like moved it so that like without making a big announcement every day when you walked onto set as you were Sigourney Weaver acting. Right. It was just like, this feels a little more tight than I expected. Isn't that
Sounds
interesting?
awful.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And the last fun fact.
You keep saying one more. I'm not complaining that you add more, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just have facts and they're fun.
Okay.
Maybe there will be more.
I'm ready.
Okay. You ready to have fun? I'm going to start a live count of all the movies that we review.
Okay.
That have Fortnite skins related to them.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll indulge.
The 2 skins that you can play Fortnite as is Ellen Ripley.
Love
so you
it.
could be, in the spacesuit.
Yeah.
Kind of fun. Or the Xenomorph. And they even have this little thing where Fortnite has these dances, but you can do other things that aren't dances. One of the emotes that you get is Fortnite's mascot is a llama. And instead of a little baby alien popping out of your chest, you get a llama popping out of your chest.
Just as anyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I just think it's one of those things that Fortnite tends to capitalize on the biggest things that are in pop culture. So if you made it into Fortnite, then you made it, obviously. That is, so now you could say that it's the alien from Fortnite. I just watched a movie about it.
Oh my gosh. It's always from Fortnite.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. So I have some fun facts too.
Tell me.
Okay. So I heard that the entire cast was in place before they figured out who was going to play Ellen Ripley. And everyone else was like semi big names. And Sigourney Weaver, this was her first real movie, like big movie.
Yeah.
So she was in Annie Hall and then like had been on TV before, but she was basically a nobody. And they did that on purpose so that you wouldn't expect her to be the one who survives.
Oh, interesting.
Which feels very Psycho.
Yeah.
Like it's almost the opposite of Psycho because they casted the movie star to be the first person who died in Psycho.
Okay.
And then you're just expecting it to be a movie about her, right? But then she dies. So then the opposite is like, yeah, you think she's just going to be like an expendable character. But then she's the one.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That's so. Yeah, if you're watching it in the 70s, then she just seems like side character gonna die
random
eventually.
Person. Yeah,
but then she doesn't.
Yeah, and all the famous people die.
Yeah, fascinating.
I know.
Wow.
They also, the whole cast and characters are all like relatively old, especially for a 70s and 80s movie. Because normally, especially horror movies, but horror movies in the 80s are very like teenager focused or like young 20s kind of. And this is one of the only movies where like the entire cast is old, and Sigourney Weaver is the youngest person at 29, and most of the other casts are like in their 50s.
Oh, wow.
And it also adds to, they're like supposed to be blue collar workers. They're referred to a lot of times as like space truckers. And that's kind of like the vibe that they're trying to go for.
That kind of comes out in the beginning when they're all arguing to get a raise.
Yeah. It's so funny. I forgot about that.
Space truckers.
And they're all smoking in space, which they do in Alien Covenant too. It's so funny. I think that must be like a 70s thing that like smoking was so normal that they were like, well, obviously in space we'll be able to smoke, you know?
Right.
Which now we're like,
why would issues with that.
Why would you ever want to do that in space?
Or why would you ever want to do that?
I know. Yeah. You were also asking about the title sequence at the beginning.
That was my favorite part. I'm so glad you brought that up. That was my favorite part of the whole movie. I used to be a graphic designer, for context, so these things excite me very much. It was so pretty.
It's so good.
The beginning title sequence of the Alien movie, it's giving...
You should just look it up on YouTube.
Oh, you really should.
Yeah.
It's pretty long, and it's not like the most exciting thing. I would recommend watching it on like double speed, just for reference.
But I'm sure they will do the same thing with Alien Romulus. They did the same thing with Covenant.
Yeah,
so I'm
hope
sure
they
if
do.
you see Romulus, you will experience this. Anyways, you can explain it.
It's the credits. So the pre-movie credits happen with this, like the titles of everybody comes up, and then it's just a line on the top of the center of the screen. And then after that line comes up, then another line comes up and another line. And then it like slowly adds each form of the letter to spell alien, but it does it in like this really cool kind of like retro, slow, intense, epic way.
Yeah.
And I thought it was awesome. Very pretty.
Yeah.
Some like subtle like space lighting in the background. Yeah.
And guess who designed it?
Saul Bass.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
of course it was. Saul Bass is a legend.
So good.
Yeah.
Uncredited though.
Yeah. I really want to do a Saul Bass episode.
Yeah, we will.
I think that'd be awesome.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. We'll look out for that in the near future. That'd be great.
My last thought on Alien is just that, I mean, it came out in 1979, so it's almost an 80s movie. Okay. I think we kind of consider it an 80s horror film. And it's just like so unapologetically 80s. Just in, like, I feel like you would always know that it's an 80s film, even though it takes place in the year like 2100 or something. Yeah. And I was thinking, like, because I watched Covenant just a couple days ago, and I think that's what's missing from Covenant is that it doesn't feel like a fun 80s sci-fi movie. It feels like too new agey, or not new agey, that's probably too futuristic is the word. And it takes place at essentially the same time as Alien, but they make it like they make it feel so different. So my hope for Romulus is that they kind of play into the 80s, even though it's futuristic. I hope they still kind of pull out the 80s stuff to kind of make it feel like it's the same universe. Yeah.
The way I felt like it was mostly the 80s is in the beginning of the film when they are locating this distress signal from the foreign planet. They have these computers that are showing this retro wave wireframe version of the ship and their path and like where they're supposed to go and the planet itself. And it just looked so cool.
Yeah.
But it just, reminded me very, very like synthwave 80s. It's like you could tell it was the 80s imagination of space in the future.
Yeah, I know. I love it because I think it's in Aliens. She has like a FaceTime call.
Oh,
Ripley does, but she puts a floppy disk into this like little thing. And then you have this FaceTime call. And it reminds me of my mom always talks about in Tomorrowland at Disneyland, how they used to have a FaceTime, like futuristic FaceTime thing.
Yes.
When they first opened. And it was like a rotary. Yeah, it's called a rotary dial phone. And like you're in a phone box. Yeah. Phone booth box. Yeah. And then you like have a video. Yeah. But it's like, it's so futuristic, but there's certain things that they just like.
Yeah, they didn't have the imagination to make a new device for it. They were like, it must still be rotary dials. Yeah. That has to
or like the only way to FaceTime is with a floppy disk.
Yeah.
Which
makes you really
very
appreciate
quickly went away.
Right. Yeah. It makes you really appreciate the Steve Jobs of the world to just be like, well, what if it wasn't a floppy disk?
I know.
That's
what if we made a floppy disk smaller?
Like a microchip small.
Yeah. It's so funny.
With all that, are you excited to see Romulus?
I'm so excited.
Are you really?
I am. Okay, so Covenant was also directed by Ridley Scott, and that kind of made me less excited about Romulus because I was like, well, if it's a Ridley Scott movie, it has to be good. And Romulus isn't directed by Ridley Scott, but it's produced, and both Ridley Scott and James Cameron are like super excited about it. James Cameron directed Aliens. So I trust them. But then I also trusted Ridley Scott with Covenant. Yeah. And I don't feel like we got what we wanted. But I think it's like a completely different storyline. Like it's not going to have to do with Ripley, even though it's happening right around that same time. So Alien Romulus is directed by Fede Alvarez. And he was saying that he wants to try to make Alien, but from a different angle. So every other Alien movie has like an adult cast and they're all crew members, but he was inspired by, in the extended like director's cut of Aliens, there's a scene with a bunch of kids in it. And he really liked that. And he liked the idea of like, what would these kids do with aliens? And like, as a kid, you don't know anything about how to run a spaceship. So Romulus centers around, they're either teenagers or like young adults of some kind. And they're from a colony, like a space colony. And then they don't have any knowledge about like just how to run a spaceship and stuff like that. So the director, Alvarez, thinks that this will be better because it will connect to the audience more, because even though the audience isn't necessarily younger, they have less knowledge of being an astronaut than like the general cast does, or crew, I guess. So I think that'll be interesting, because I think that's something we've never seen in an alien movie before. Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be fun. It also is said to be kind of going back to the original Alien, I don't want to say template, because I think they all have the same template, but basically after Alien, they all became way more like scary, like slasher kind of movies.
Yeah.
But Alien is a lot more thriller.
Right.
And so this is going back to like the thriller kind of vibe.
I did say to you when the movie had just started that if they land on the planet and immediately go into hours of alien slasher, I'm just going to be upset, because then there's no story. It's just like, oh no, they're dying and I don't care. But I really liked the way, you kind of just picked off everybody one by one.
I want the stress, not just like constant action gore or whatever. Yeah.
Kids in the movie though sounds depressing.
I don't think it's kids though. I think it's just like young people. Sure. It's like Stranger Things as kids.
Yeah,
you know?
I get that.
Although I feel like inevitably almost all of them are going to die, so it will be sad.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, that I think is all of our thoughts on Alien and everything that you need to know before you go watch the movie. Stick around and we will talk a little bit more about our other favorite movies right after this. Did you know that in 2003, there was a stock in the NYSE index that started to rise as companies rediversified their financial holdings while AIG supported a merger between two smaller...
Aren't ads the worst?
I kind of think so.
So boring.
They're so boring.
You know what's not boring?
What?
Our Patreon.
That's so true. For only $3 a month, you could subscribe to our Patreon and never hear me talk about the stock index from 2003 ever again.
Maybe, unless we talk about it in a movie.
If that's ever in a movie,
we won't watch it.
I'm not watching it. But you can guarantee that you never hear this ad again if you go over and check out our Patreon.
Go do that right now.
It's in the show notes, the link to our Patreon, or you can go to patreon.com and look up Marina's Movie Club and subscribe to us there. It's only $3 a month. So go ahead and check it out and never hear me talk about boring stock markets ever again.
We'll see you there.
All right. So speaking of aliens.
Right.
I had a question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite pop culture alien?
Okay. I have two. I have a runner, or like honorable mention maybe. Will be my honorable mention is the aliens from Toy Story.
Those are great.
But it doesn't really count because they aren't real aliens.
The class.
But they're so good and so cute. Real favorite alien, Clark Kent.
Nice.
Superman.
Yep. Technically an alien.
Yeah.
That's great.
What's yours?
Very human alien.
Yeah.
Mine, by far, Stitch.
Oh, I forgot about Stitch. That's so good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really great. I actually, when I would go to Disneyland as a kid, I would, they have these pins that you can collect when you go. I think it's something that you only really know if you regularly go to Disneyland. So I'm kind of like on the inside note.
Yeah.
But you have these lanyards and you just buy into the capitalism of Disneyland by hoarding pins. And that's what you do. That's how you...
It's fun.
But then you get pins. Okay.
Yeah.
So some people have just a big collection of pins. There's these exclusive pins that you can only get at certain parks or certain like times of year. There's...
or the cruise ships.
Or cruise. Okay. Yeah. Great. There's pins. So they make them like very exclusive, had to be their collector's items type things, right? Or there's other people that make pins just based off of the one theme. So it might just be, I have like a Star Wars lanyard and I just have only Star Wars pins. or I have, whatever. My lanyard was only stitch pins.
Love it.
So anytime we found a stitch pin, my mom would get it for me.
Oh.
And that was really fun. But I think I remember getting one pin that I didn't really care about, but then there is a cast member, which is just what Disneyland calls their staff.
Yeah.
Which I think is so funny. Who saw my pin and then was like, ooh, I wanted that one, but I didn't get it in time. You want to trade? And I was like, sure. You got any stitch? And she was like, yes. And then we traded, but she was more excited than that.
Yeah.
But it was funny because that was like my value in monetary.
Was it Stitch?
In third grade?
Yeah.
Was like, do you have Stitch? And I think my favorite part about Stitch was that I could do his voice really well.
Oh my gosh.
In the third grade, but I don't think I could do it anymore.
Are you going to try?
I don't think so.
Okay. I respect that.
Yeah, thanks.
I wouldn't try either. I didn't know if you wanted me to ask you.
No, I don't even know how. I just remember you do some of that like in the back of your mouth.
Yeah.
But I don't remember much else about even what he sounds like.
That's okay. Point. Maybe you can just you can think about it, and then maybe we'll do a Lilo and Stitch episode and you can practice for that. Okay. So my question for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite movie from the 70s?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I wanted to ask because I was looking at my Letterboxd and I was trying to create my top 10 films.
Oh, okay.
And I put it on our podcast Letterboxd because
nice.
In case, anyone wants to know. And almost all of them are from the 70s.
Really?
And I was like, wow.
I have to look.
I didn't even realize that this was like the era that I like so much.
Funny.
Yeah.
I actually only think that I've seen like one.
Mm-hmm. Other than Alien now.
So now two.
Yeah.
But I think the only other one I've seen is Jaws.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
And it would be your favorite.
So
even if you saw other ones.
Two, I like Jaws more.
That's fair.
Yeah. I actually don't know if I was the biggest fan of Alien.
Yeah.
Not that I had any like qualms about it. Mm-hmm. I just don't think it was like my type of movie. I don't know if I'm really into the
space thrillers.
Space thriller genre. It's so niche.
What would you rate it out of 10?
Like a 6. But it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
It's just there is a length of movies that I like so much more than Alien that go above it.
Yeah.
So if I dislike a movie, I think it'll go 5. And if I like really hated a movie, it'll go 4 to 1.
Yeah.
But I think on my scale, like a 6 is like the bottom rank of things that I enjoy.
Okay.
Without failing.
Yeah. I think I'd put it at like 7.5.
Okay.
Maybe 8.
Or would you consider yourself a horror, thriller, gore, guts kind of girl?
I like thrillers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about horror? Horror?
Like alien horror I'm into.
Okay.
Because I'm not like scared of them.
Real people horror or like murderer?
Yeah, not
under your bed horror.
Ton, but I do love Psycho and I do love Jaws. And I do love
I wouldn't even Psycho and Jaws are not horror. I would say they're
gory though.
Yeah. Psycho's well, I don't know. Gory in a different way.
Yeah, and it's like
I think gory now means something so different than gory back in the 70s too.
It's one scene of gore also. Yeah. Like also Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Great.
I wouldn't consider that a gory film.
No, it's just that one scene. It's very contained.
Has gore, right?
Yeah. So I think I don't want to go to a movie where like everyone's dying all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Me neither.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of those.
Yeah. My favorite 70s movie.
Oh, yeah.
Was Jaws, but I had a second one because I figured you were going to say Jaws.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So mine is Badlands by Terrence Malick.
Oh, isn't that in your...
it's in my top 3.
Top 3? Yeah. That's
also
great.
A gory movie.
Really?
Well, a scary movie.
I actually don't know anything about it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do an episode.
Okay.
It's so good. It's not like streaming on anything, which is why I've never made you watch it.
Oh, so we'd have to buy it.
Yeah. I really want to like have a lot of people over to make it worth it because it's probably like $20 or something. It's like only on like Apple TV.
Yeah.
So
very interesting.
Yeah. Terrence Malick movies are hard to access for whatever reason.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that you all are having, a great day. And whatever you're doing while you're listening to this podcast, I hope it's going well.
Yeah.
And I hope it's making you smile.
I also hope that.
Yeah.
I hope that if you're cleaning, it's making it better. This is what I do. When I clean, I listen to podcasts.
Yeah. But I also hope that you feel prepared to walk into a movie theater and just watch the heck out of the new Alien movie.
And sound really smart to your friends.
Yeah, and you're going to say, actually, did you know that was a practical effect?
Yeah. Pop quiz.
Don't do that.
Pop quiz.
Okay, pop quiz what?
Are aliens real?
Oh,
do you believe that aliens are real?
I believe they could be real.
Me too. I'm on the higher end of it.
I have nothing against alien realities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. Okay. Just thought we should get that out there.
Yeah. Well, if you want to connect with us in any other ways, would love you to do so. Mm-hmm. Reach out to us on Instagram at Marina's Movie Club.
Yeah.
On Letterboxd at Movie Club Pod.
Yes.
Anywhere else?
No,
I got two this time.
Those are the two social medias we have right now.
That's it. All right. Yeah. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
One day I'll do it without questions.
It's okay.
Well, thanks for listening. Hope you feel ready to watch. Let us know your review of the new Alien movie when you go to see it.
Yeah.
Reach out to us, record a little snippet of yourself, send it to us online, and we'd love to maybe include it in the podcast. That'd be fun.
Or just hear it for ourselves.
Yeah, maybe if you're not
if you don't want it on the
if you're not podcast material, I'll just listen to it and respond and be like, thanks.
Yeah.
And then you won't. I'll be nicer than that.
No.
Anyways, thanks so much for being here. We love you and enjoy
it.
Yep.
Yeah.